now, Maestro Jack Everly, our orchestra, and military choruses perform the Armed Forces Medley. Whether here or watching at home, if you are able, please stand when your service is presented.
It is our honor to introduce the distinguished Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Please welcome General Mark A. Milley.
Good evening. Tonight we celebrate our 154th Memorial Day, and we pause to honor the more than 1 million Americans who made the ultimate sacrifice since the founding of our nation. We remember their courage. We remember how they lived. We remember their selfless service. We honor their sacrifice. And behind every one of these men and women is a family. A husband or a wife, a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, a son or daughter, taken too soon. A child left behind. A dream never realized. For the families of the fallen, every day is Memorial Day. Each of our fallen gave their tomorrows for our today, and gave their last full measure of devotion so we all of us, as Americans, under these colors of red, white, and blue, can continue to hold these truths to be self-evident. That all men and all women are created free and equal, and that we are endowed by our Creator with the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So we pause. We pause on Memorial Day to remember. And we rededicate ourselves to give meaning to their sacrifice by continuing to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to defend our principles and our way of life. Tonight, thousands of Americans are deployed across the globe on freedom's frontier, defending against those who would do us harm. We stand the watch. We stand the watch to ensure that our fallen did not die in vain, to ensure that this experiment in liberty, this government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from this earth. On behalf of those deployed around the world, and all of the 2.1 million of us wearing the cloth of our nation, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff with me here on the stage, thank you. Thank you for remembering. Thank you for remembering our fallen and honoring the cause for which they lived.
Tonight has been about creating a community of remembrance and support that will continue long after these lights go down.
This concert means so much to so many. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for this, the 33rd Annual National Memorial Day Concert.
The concert will repeat immediately following this live broadcast on most PBS stations.
And now to sing God Bless America, please welcome back Pia Toscano.
Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the
serve. And to learn more about the National Memorial Day Concert, please visit our website at pbs.org/Memorial Day Concert or join us on Facebook and Twitter. The National Memorial Day Concert is made possible by
the Horatio Alger Association of Distinguished Americans honors all who serve, including 236 of its esteemed members. Since 1947, the Horatio Alger Award has been presented to outstanding Americans who embody the American dream, built on hard work, perseverance, and success. Through them, the association has awarded $235 million in scholarships to enable 35,000 youth to pursue their American dream through higher education.
the National Park Service, Department of the Army, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, General Dynamics, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. You're watching PBS.
Join me, Joe Montana,
And me, Gary Sinise.
with Gene Smart, Gil Birmingham, Mary McCormick, Dennis Haysbert, Leah Salonga, Norm Lewis, Craig Morgan, Rhiannon Giddens, and Brian Stokes Mitchell, the National Memorial Day Concert.
Next on KET.
Looks like Alex.
Concert. Please welcome our hosts, Joe Montana and Gary Sinise.
Welcome to the 33rd Annual National Memorial Day Concert. After the challenges of the past 2 years, Gary and I are thrilled to be back here live once again on the West Lawn of the U.S. Capitol.
And now let's begin the concert. Please rise in body or in spirit for our national anthem, performed by the proud granddaughter of a U.S. Marine, Pia Toscano.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming with footsteps and bright stars through the endless sky? For the ramparts we lost were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the numbers singing out, they moved through the night. That our flag was
And now, welcome to the 33rd Annual National Memorial Day Concert. Tonight's special guests are four-time Emmy-winning actress Jean Smart, Screen Actors Guild nominee Gil Birmingham, international star and Tony Award winner Alfie Bowe, two-time Grammy Award winner Rhiannon Giddens, Tony Award and Screen Actors Guild nominee Mary McCormick, NAACP Image Award nominee Dennis Haysbert, international recording artist Pia Toscano, Tony, Grammy and Screen Actors Guild nominee Norm Lewis, Academy of Country Music Award nominee Craig Morgan, and Tony Award winner Leah Salonga. Featuring the National Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Maestro Jack Everly, and General Mark A. Milley, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the U.S. Army Herald Trumpets, the U.S. Army Chorus, the Soldiers Chorus of the U.S. Army Field Band, the U.S. Navy Band Sea Chanters, the U.S. Air Force Singing Sergeants, and the Armed Forces Color Guard and Service Color Teams. The National Memorial Day Concert is made possible by
The Horatio Alger Association of Distinguished Americans honors all who serve, including 236 of its esteemed members. Since 1947, the Horatio Alger Award has been presented to outstanding Americans who embody the American dream, built on hard work, perseverance, and success. Through them, the association has awarded $235 million in scholarships to enable 35,000 youth to pursue their American dream through higher education.
and by the National Park Service, Department of the Army, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, General Dynamics, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. And now, here are tonight's co-hosts, Tony Award winner Joe Mantegna and Emmy Award winner Gary Sinise.
Thank you for joining us for the 2022 National Memorial Day Concert. In its 33rd year, this concert, it's an American tradition, in so many ways the memorial service for this country. It's how all of us can join together to unite in tribute to all who serve, have served, and their families. And most importantly, so we can remember the brave who gave their lives for our country. I can think of no day more important than this.
With us tonight is a special audience of those for whom Memorial Day has a profound meaning.
I'm so sorry.
Gold Star families. Gold Star mothers and wives, fathers and husbands, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters. Veterans from World War II, the Korean War and Vietnam, Iraq and Afghanistan. And also in our audience are wounded, ill, and injured veterans from Walter Reed National Military Medical Center and Fort Belvoir Hospital. We're honored to have you with us tonight.
Our nation's patriots, whether they are in uniform serving overseas or our men and women in uniform here at home, demonstrate remarkable courage while protecting all of us, our freedom, their way of life. And we want to thank our first responders and make special mention of the United States Capitol Police and its members for their dedication and service.
Joining us tonight on the West Lawn of the United States Capitol at the National Memorial Day Concert is the National Symphony Orchestra. Once again, under the direction of Maestro Jack Everly.
And now, we want to take a moment to pay special tribute to a man we lost this past year. A soldier and statesman who served our nation in so many ways. General Cohen.
He was an important part of the National Memorial Day Concert family. And just as this concert is an important American tradition, so were his appearances here, year after year, starting in 1991.
Assembled again tonight on the lawn of our Capitol to pause and pay tribute to those brave Americans in uniform whose sacrifices have kept democracy and freedom alive over our nation's history. We especially remember with reverence and with deep gratitude those who were called upon to pay the supreme sacrifice. As long as we remember them, their courage and love for country will never be lost. Memorial Day reminds us that our future has been purchased by these proud patriots of the past.
In General Powell's 27 appearances at this concert, he never failed to praise the young men and women who throughout our history have fought to defend the rights of people around the world, willing to risk their lives in the name of liberty and justice. And in expressing his gratitude, to all of our returning veterans for their extraordinary service. He said these words: "We want them to know that our support will not end, and we will not forget them." He reminded us that we could all find ways to help, whether welcoming our veterans and their families back into the community, encouraging employers to hire them, or by simply listening to their stories. And General Powell challenged all of us to support those who come home with wounds of war. He deeply believed that in doing that, each of us could play a critically important role in their journey towards recovery, making a real difference in these veterans' quest for a better life. He often spoke of our need for unity and peace. As he said, "We are one American family, woven together by our service and our hope that future generations will not have to endure the devastation of war." The last time General Powell was able to appear with us in the Capitol, he was already ill. In his final battle, yet he summoned the strength to speak once again to our nation.
Through the generations, Americans have always done their part and given their lives for each other and for the ideals of our nation. Despite the dangers or circumstances, they inspired us with their great courage, dedication to country, and commitment to duty. As it says in the scripture, no one can have greater love than to lay down their life for their friends. All of those who have served us in times of war and times of peace remind us that we can overcome, no matter how difficult the challenge or how hard the times. We are a great nation, and our greatest strength is our people. Let us keep our military men and women and their families in our hearts. Let us serve and support them as they continue to serve us. Thank you.
In these challenging times, General Powell's words are a reminder that the ties that bind us are stronger than the stresses that divide us, and can serve as our North Star in the years ahead. We thank you, General Powell, and your family for your service.
And now, with a song dedicated to General Powell, in tribute to a man who believed in the promise of our nation and who dreamed of a time when all Americans would serve others any way they could, please welcome renowned tenor Alfie Bowe.
And I know if I love to be true to this one man's golden covered with scars, still strong his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, fight for the right, without question or force, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man's golden covered with scars, still strong his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable
Thank you, Alfie. And now here to pay tribute to those of the greatest generation who served our nation during World War II is acclaimed actress Mary McCormick.
It was the greatest crisis in world history. Brutal dictators trying to impose their will. Innocent civilians targeted and murdered. Tens of millions killed during intense fighting on the continents of Europe, Asia, Africa, and on the high seas. For our nation, World War II began in December 1941 and ended in September 1945 with the final surrender of Japan. 16 million Americans served in uniform in this epic cause, and more than 400,000 lost their lives. Its impact on American society then and in the decades that followed not only helped shape the America I grew up in, but has repercussions still being felt today. Often overlooked is the critical role millions of women played in attaining America's victory. It's been said that their mission was to free a man to fight. But we can never forget that in every way it was their fight too. Tonight, we pay tribute to all the women who served their country during World War II, here at home and on foreign soil, defending our freedom and helping defeat the forces of totalitarianism. They were America's wives and mothers, sisters and cousins, patriots who knew their country needed them. And they gave their all in so many ways, as mechanics and motor pool drivers, radio operators and code breakers, clerks and war correspondents, gunner's mates and air traffic controllers, cooks and bakers, weather specialists and parachute riggers, aviators who flew cargo planes and who trained male pilots. They were everywhere, working in factories and field offices, serving behind desks and headquarters and putting themselves in harm's way. Over 400 were killed defending our nation, and dozens more were held in years in prison camps. All told, 350,000 women served in the United States Armed Forces. 19 million filled needed jobs in the workforce at home, with 12 million working in defense industries. They came from every state and every background to join the cause, winning Distinguished Service Medals, Purple Hearts, Presidential Unit Citations, and Bronze Stars, helping in the battle against the enemy overseas while far too often battling stereotypes and discrimination here at home. History knows them as WACs and WAVES, women Marines and SPARs, WASPs and World War II nurses, Rosie the Riveters and volunteers, women who gave their time and talent, and tragically, some gave their lives. But regardless of their role or branch of service, what truly matters is the commitment and courage of these unsung heroes. Joining us tonight, representing all their sisters who served, are 9 female members of the greatest generation. Virginia Bassler, Emmylou Daly, Susan King, Muriel Coopersmith, Florence McCarty, Connie Palacios, Julia Parsons, Norma Jean Rambo, Betty Reed Soskin.
Throughout the year, and especially on Memorial Day, it is important to visit the memorials we have honoring our veterans. And all of us will soon be able to visit the newly renovated Korean War Veterans Memorial here in Washington, D.C. later this summer. And 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Iconic and visually stunning, this tribute, known by many simply as the Wall, honors members of the American Armed Forces who served in the Vietnam era. Over the years, it has become a sacred gathering place for veterans and the families of those whose names are permanently engraved in the granite, giving them a chance to remember their loved ones and comrades.
U.S. forces fought in Vietnam for almost a decade. Over the course of the conflict, more than 58,000 Americans died and over 150,000 were wounded. The brutality of those battles and the turmoil of jungle fighting had a powerful impact, one whose cost is still being felt today in the nearly 3.5 million Americans who served in Southeast Asia. As the war escalated and the battles continued to rage, U.S. troop strength reached its peak in 1969 with more than 540,000 Americans serving in country. No one was immune from the danger of combat, including medics. Who became full participants as treacherous guerrilla warfare unfolded all around them. Frequently targeted by the enemy, they were needed on the front lines more than ever to tend to our wounded and dying troops. Our medical personnel pushed on through this traumatic time by caring for each other. All the while, in the midst of battle, trying to save the lives of their brothers in arms. In the spring of 1969, a newly trained medic from South Dakota, Francis Whitebird, arrived in Vietnam. Here to share Whitebird's story is acclaimed actor and star of the TV series Yellowstone, Gil Birmingham.
A warrior tradition.
My great-grandfather was an Indian scout for the 2nd Cavalry. My uncle fought in the trenches of World War I. My dad was a Lakota code talker in World War II during the Battle of the Bulge. So, naturally, when the time came, I had to test myself to see if I could go into battle and survive. What I wanted was a combat infantry badge, but the Army made a medic out of me. I arrived in March '69, Comron Bay. At dawn, it was already over 85 degrees. I walked out the door of that plane and I felt like I walked into an oven. I was assigned to headquarters company. The sergeant picked us up, took us to his hooch and gave us a beer. Then he said, "I want you guys to help me with the job." It's the first time I saw a body bag. I didn't know what it was. He unzipped it to ID the body and I saw the face. Sarge told me the guy had been a medic. A mortar round landed in the foxhole, blew him in half. I realized then what I had signed up for. We went through 27 medics the first 9 months. You couldn't think more than a day ahead because every morning you'd wake up and say, "I wonder if I'll see the sunset." Most people think medics don't carry weapons, but I did. War is about killing. You don't go to war to die, but you live with that fear every day. No matter how scared you are, you get the job done. You have to move fast. Adrenaline's going, bullets are flying all around. You're afraid. But then a guy gets wounded, and you want to get that guy out of there because he's depending on you. You drag him out of the fire, make sure he's okay. If he's in pain, give him morphine, and you just go on to the next one. Shrapnel, stop the bleeding, give him a shot, morphine, pull him to safety. Grenade, grab the forceps, patch him up. Hope like hell he makes it back into the world, and go back out again. My job was to keep him alive until a helicopter comes. But we're in a war zone, and there are no guarantees. People get killed. Seeing the first dead bodies where I knew the guy, it affects you. A lot of guys don't want to make friends because then their buddies die, and there's no time to grieve. But times are so intense, you can make friends fast. Like my buddy Paul. He was a recon sergeant. I found out he was from Omaha. And when you're 10,000 miles away from home, South Dakota and Nebraska are practically next door. That was a comfort. Soldiers form a sacred bond. It lasts a lifetime. You develop this trust. The whole thing is an effort to keep each other alive. We saw some of the worst fighting in the Battle of Kentucky Valley in August 1969. RPGs were whizzing all around. Paul got wounded and was medevaced out only hours before I was dropped in. So I couldn't believe I hadn't been there for him. Then I got wounded just a few days later. RPG exploded near me, knocked me right off my feet. The shrapnel came in hot, cauterized around the wound, but I just pulled it out and kept going. There were other men to look after. When a married guy was wounded in a firefight, somebody always stepped in. They'd gladly die in his place so he could see his family. You're willing to die for a total stranger just so he can get back to home. 130 of us from Charlie Company went in battle that day. Only 25 walked out. After my year was up, I re-enlisted. I didn't want to leave any of my guys behind. I said, I gave Charlie a year to kill me, and he didn't do it, so I'll give him another 6 months. But that was pure bravado. I was scared the whole time. At some point, the adrenaline wears off, and you're left with terror and grief. Dead, mutilated people, decaying corpses. You never forget that smell. There's only so much I could stand. You went to Vietnam alone. You came back alone. One day you're in the jungle. The next, you're standing on the street in America. There's no deep depression. There's nothing. All you had left were images and memories. Later they called that post-traumatic stress. But I had all these stories inside of me, and they were raising hell in me. But I didn't tell anyone. If you're in a battle, even just one time, you relive that battle your whole life. Your body may be back, but your mind is still over there. It's not just one thing that heals you. It's a whole series of things that help you gradually recover. With my Lakota tribe, when you get back, they have a ceremony for you. What non-speakers call the sweat lodge. The cleansing isn't just physical. It also purifies the spirit. You go in there, you tell the people what you did, and when it's over, all that stays in the lodge. My warrior ancestors set very high standards for me, and my sons have carried on that tradition. One of the hardest things in my life was when my sons were deployed to Iraq, because I know what war is and what they'll see. And now we all wear our combat badges. We show people that different generations have fought in different wars. Someone once told me in Lakota that you're only alive as long as someone remembers you. On Memorial Day, I buy flowers with red, white, and blue flags on them for people who served, not just in Vietnam. I remember all the veterans who fought in wars past. And now we include Iraq and Afghanistan. Memorial Day is the day we're supposed to honor them. And I do.
Please welcome two-time Grammy-winning recording artist, Rhiannon Giddens.
When shadows fall and blue skies all turn to gray, I'll guide the way. When night rolls in and you need a friend who'll wait for day, I'll always stay right by your side. Nothing to hide from me. Through thick and thin, there and back again, and you see you can count on. When yesterday won't burn away like they used to do, nothing to hide from me. No, through thick and thin, there and back again, you see, you can count on me.
2022 marks the 100th anniversary of one of America's most famous and majestic landmarks, the Lincoln Memorial. Dedicated on Memorial Day 1922, its symbolism and cultural significance over the decades cannot be overstated. It has been featured in dozens of films, appears on the back of the $5 bill, is visited every year by millions of Americans young and old, has been the setting for an iconic speech that challenged all of us with its calls for justice and the dream of a better tomorrow, and serves as a gathering place for Americans to reflect upon Abraham Lincoln's commitment to our enduring democracy. It was built as a tribute to a president considered by many to be our greatest, one whose leadership in a time of our deepest crisis reunited a nation torn asunder, and whose eloquence inspired not just those Americans of his own time, but reminds us even today of the sacrifices of all who gave their lives in the cause of freedom. Within the memorial are two of Abraham Lincoln's most famous speeches. The Gettysburg Address is less than 300 words. When Lincoln spoke them on that November day in 1863, he believed that the world would little note nor long remember what was said that day. But his remarks, so fitting this Memorial Day and every Memorial Day, endure. For they were spoken in honor of those who gave the last full measure of their devotion for our nation. We here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Inscribed on the north interior wall of the memorial, not very far from the Gettysburg Address, are Lincoln's remarks from his second inaugural. But they were not in any way a traditional political speech. Instead, his powerful words and biblical allusions were a call to action, an inclusive reminder needed back then and still today of the heroism of so many and of our need to work for healing and peace. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. Over the course of our history, tens of millions of Americans have worn our nation's uniforms in times of war and peace. Of all those patriots, a select few have received our government's most prestigious decoration, our nation's highest award for personal bravery in combat, the Medal of Honor. Tonight, the National Memorial Day Concert pays tribute to all our Medal of Honor recipients who wear their medals humbly, not just for themselves, but for those with whom they served and those who never made it home. The idea to award a medal to honor valor and integrity on the battlefields was first proposed in the early months of the Civil War. And in March 1863, Congress voted to make the medal a permanent decoration. In the more than 150 years since then, over 3,500 recipients of every background and from every walk of life have been awarded the Medal of Honor. They gave their heart and soul for the cause of freedom in the Civil War, in the trenches of World War I, on the front lines in World War II and Korea, in the jungles of Vietnam, and in the deserts of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan. We are united in awe and inspired by what each of these heroes did. Here with us tonight are 5 of America's Medal of Honor recipients. I am so honored to share their stories. Staff Sergeant David G. Bellavia, United States Army. In Iraq in 2004, while clearing a house of insurgents, Sergeant Bellavia's platoon became trapped by intense enemy fire. With disregard for his own safety, he provided cover to allow the squad to exit. Later, with an enemy combatant launching an RPG at his platoon, he attacked the position, ultimately clearing the enemy-filled house, killing 4 insurgents and badly wounding a 5th. Senior Chief Special Warfare Operator Edward C. Byers, Jr., U.S. Navy SEAL. In December 2012, Chief Byers went on a rescue mission to save an American-held hostage in Afghanistan. While exposed to enemy fire, he cleared a path for the rescue force. Byers then engaged a guard who was aiming an AK-47 at him, shielded the hostage with his body, and restrained an enemy guard until a teammate could eliminate him. Sergeant First Class Melvin Morris, Sr., U.S. Army. In September 1969, while commanding his company in Vietnam, Sergeant Morris crossed enemy lines to retrieve a fallen comrade and single-handedly destroyed a force that had pinned down his men. True to the creed, never leave a man behind, he valiantly led wounded team members to safety, despite being shot 3 times. Staff Sergeant Leroy A. Petrie, U.S. Army Ranger. On a mission in Afghanistan in 2008, Sergeant Petrie and a fellow Ranger were wounded by enemy fires. As he led the other Ranger to cover, with complete disregard for his own safety, Petrie picked up the grenade that landed near his team. As he threw it back, it detonated, severely wounding him and amputating his hand. First Lieutenant Brian M. Thacker, U.S. Army. In March 1971, a North Vietnamese Army force attacked Lieutenant Thacker's firebase. Occupying an exposed position, he directed airstrikes against the enemy, then remained alone to provide covering fire so his team could escape. Wounded, He eluded enemy forces surrounding him for 8 days until he made it to safety. Each of these heroes risked their lives to save the lives of others. And now please join me in giving our thanks to these 5 men and all the Medal of Honor recipients they represent. Please welcome a star of film, television, and Broadway, Norm Lewis.
I've read most people live a life of quiet desperation, but I know someone who lives a life of quiet dedication. There are no trophies on his shelf, there are no plaques upon his wall, there are no thoughts of just himself. Oh no, no, not at all. There are too many needs to meet, there are too many things to do, there are too many wounds to treat. Oh yes, but here comes, without a question, he's here, helping me to persevere. He's my hero, and though no one knows his name, and he'll never know the fame that comes from fortune or acclaim, he's my hero, though the world will never see all the courage that he has and gives to me. He's my hero. Never would occur to him that he should lay his burden down for everything he does, because I'm his glory, I'm his crown. It never would occur to him that it is more than he should bear. He's doing what he has to do through heart and hands and with a prayer. He's my hero, and though no one feels his pain, and though no one sees the strain of something no one can explain, he's my hero, and until my time is past, these words will be my first and be my last. He's my hero, my hero. His heart and his eyes, I'm his trophy, I'm his prize. But he's my eyes, he's my hero, my and though no one feels his pain, and though no one sees the strain of something no one can explain, he's my hero. And until my time is past, these words will be my first and be my last. He's my hero. My hero.
Every year at the National Memorial Day concert, distinguished actors take to the stage and bring to life the heroic, real-life stories of those who served our nation in uniform. It's a way for us to share what they did to inspire not just today's, but future generations of Americans. To see their stories or to add your own, please visit the Wall of Remembrance on our website.
We'll never forget. Our people were stunned by this attack on our soil, but then a powerful American spirit arose, and as always, we joined together to meet the challenge. Less than a month later, the war in Afghanistan was launched, and the war in Iraq began in March 2003. It was the beginning of the conflicts now known as the global war on terror. In the 20 years since that September 11th day, over 3 million Americans have served in uniform, with over 7,000 losing their lives, over 50,000 wounded in an action, and hundreds of thousands more suffered post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and other war-related traumas of the body, mind, and spirit. The cost of every war is high, and Operation Iraqi Freedom was no exception. As the months rolled by, it became apparent this was going to be a very different type of war. Those who served during that time faced a relentless and unyielding enemy, never being sure who was our friend or foe. And coming under insurgent attack from snipers, rocket-propelled grenades, and the sudden blast of IEDs. Day after day, our warriors faced the prospect of crippling injury or instant death in any house or building, in every town, and on every road. The war forever changed the lives of those who volunteered to serve our nation and their military families. One such family is the Grahams. Here to share their story are acclaimed actors Gene Smart and Joe Mantegna.
I didn't have any military background, but our family was patriotic. We believed in our country and in service, so I joined Army ROTC in college. Carol and I met as undergraduates. First time I kissed her, I knew she was it.
Mark pretty much swept me off my feet. We got married, and 7 years later, we'd lived on Army bases all over the world and begun to raise our 3 kids, Jeffrey, Kevin, and Melanie. Jeffrey was kind of our G.I. Jeff, always playing Army.
Kevin was a happy kid, funny and super bright. I mean,
He had a tender heart. It was like he could feel the pain of the world. Melanie loved her older brothers. They picked on her, but always had her back.
We had a good life. I used to say, I'm almost worried. Things are too perfect.
I loved being an Army wife, and the kids made friends no matter where we went. And then with the war after 9/11, everything changed.
As an officer, I saw a resurgence of service and patriotism. Young individuals wanting to join the military. Jeffrey and Kevin were no different.
Jeffrey graduated officer training and got his active duty assignment. And Kevin was a top ROTC cadet with a bright military career ahead of him. He wanted to serve as a doctor. But between the stress of ROTC and pre-med, he really hit a wall.
He was exercising. He looked great. But we didn't know how much he was hurting on the inside. He was really, really struggling, and he couldn't tell us. Couldn't tell his own parents.
Kevin didn't want the Army to know he was on medication for depression. He and his brother and sister lived in the same apartment, and they never found out. He was just too ashamed. The summer he left for his ROTC leadership camp, he stopped taking his medication. We lost him in a matter of days.
We knew he was sad. We just didn't know you could die from being too sad. We didn't understand enough about it. We all blamed ourselves that we didn't see it coming, but we never blamed Kevin.
I didn't think I'd make it. Not even through that first day. I just kept thinking that I had to be there for Jeffrey, for Melanie. And that kept me going. Jeffrey was about to deploy for Iraq, and so I felt like I had to stay strong for him.
The Army told Jeffrey he didn't have to deploy. He could serve stateside. But Jeffrey looked at me in a way I'd never seen my son look at me before. And he said, "Dad, I've got to go. My men are waiting for me." As a father, I didn't want him over there. I did not. But as a soldier, I understood.
He loves his platoon. In his journal, he wrote about how much he cared for his men. He was doing everything he could to keep them safe.
In Iraq, Jeffrey was in a dangerous area outside Chaldea, leading a foot patrol. There had been a number of recent insurgent attacks, and he spotted something that didn't look right up on a bridge. He halted his platoon in their tracks. That's when the enemy detonated the IED by cell phone. He was still alive when his soldiers found him. The blast had sheared off both his legs at the thigh and sliced off one of his hands. Jeffrey didn't make it, neither did his radio operator. But the rest of those men, because of Jeffrey, those men made it home.
In less than 8 months, we lost both boys, and Melanie lost her brothers. Never in a million years do you think something like that could happen in one family. You lose one child, that's the end of the world. And then
We felt guilty after Kevin. With Jeffrey gone too, it was like, how can I ever be happy again?
I knew I needed help. I went to grief support groups every week, and it was so hard. I could feel the stigma about Kevin. You could clear out a room back then talking about suicide.
I processed the grief very differently than Carol. There were a lot of days I would have rather just crawled into a corner and not gone to work.
We just held on to each other so tight. For us, that was the key, holding on to each other.
With Carol's encouragement, I finally went and got help myself because I wasn't sleeping, and that took a long time. That first step was really hard, but I think it opened the door for me.
It seemed that if maybe we could share our story and help other people find comfort, then we could find healing. It was a turning point when we could share both their stories and honor their lives together.
In the beginning, you think it's only happening to you. Then you realize there are so many other people who are struggling, hurting even more than you are. You don't have the corner on pain or loss.
When Mark and I could hug a family that had lost a soldier, whether it was a combat death or a suicide, we were able to connect in a way that, sadly, we hadn't been able to do before.
Somebody asked me not long ago how we survived. I said faith, family, and friends. Our Army family was there when we needed them.
The hole in our hearts will never close. But we learned from losing our sons that there is always more we can do to help others. As Mark says, our sons both died fighting battles. Jeffrey did in combat. Kevin was different. He had an invisible wound.
There are a lot of Kevins in this world struggling in silence. And we want to make sure they no longer stay silent. It's a sign of strength, not weakness, to come forward and seek help for mental care. It's okay. Don't be alone. Talk to someone.
To any of you who have lost a loved one, we understand what you're going through. Right now, maybe 1 minute at a time, but hold on to your faith, hold on to your friends and family, and hold on to each other.
Know that your family member died in service to our nation, died doing what they wanted to do, whether their wounds were visible or invisible, they were serving. Tonight, we honor their service.
And we will never forget them.
Here is country music star and U.S. Army veteran, Craig Morgan.
Lights are shining bright as always downtown on the road. I have friends that come from out of town asking me to go. You see, there's so much going on. Why don't you come along and show us around? I tell you, every time you will, so I promise you go out. Besides, I've got things a list of things I need to do around the house. And I hang up the phone, turn the radio back on, and sit back down. I know my boy ain't here, but he ain't gone. In the morning, you said to the kitchen, oh, now I'm waking up, trying to rise up some ambition. Go outside and find myself, but I ain't alone. I've got the Father and my Son and the Holy Ghost. I've been beat up, I've been pushed and shoved, but never really knocked down. Between mom and dad, all the sound of friends, I somehow always pulled out. The pain of this was more than I'd ever felt before. Yeah, I was broke. I cried until I passed out. Then I prayed till I thought I couldn't pray anymore. Then
This is Travels with John Stephenson. I really filmed this for my veteran friends to be able to show it to them, those who didn't get a chance to see it. And I hope they enjoy it. Particularly my friend Darius Beach and Larry Hitchley and all the other veteran friends. Thank them for their service.